I think we'll get started right in. The parking, there's something at the church on the corner tonight, so it's confusing people, I think. They think it's packed in here, so they're not here. We're probably in midterm of a project here. There was 8 focus groups with the community in April. A lot of follow-up. There was a survey done. And Rob is with Kimberly, Bolan and Associates, which is a nationally recognized library consultant. They've been great. He's been very thorough. And so now this is a presentation to the public, where you get a chance to see what they've come up with, and you can ask questions, and we need feedback. So this is the next step. It's back to the community because it's your library. So without further ado, let me just introduce again Rob Cullin.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good to see a nice crowd again, as we had last time when we were here in the Unitarian Church here for the first focus group in Housatonic. So as Pat said, we put a lot of work and a lot of communication into the community to try and come up with a set of recommendations for Ramsdell. For those of you that aren't familiar with the process, just so you understand the scope of what we are. So we're library consultants, we're not architects, right? We weren't consulted to design anything per se. We have some concepts in the program or in the plan. If you haven't seen it, then we'll kind of show. But they're just concepts, they're not designs. But our objective was, as kind of Pat says, gathering community input, community survey. We did 8 different discussion groups across the community. Had about 95 people total came to those sessions. Did a lot of kind of data research, looking at kind of statistics and usage, collection usage, things like that. And then basically to come out with a set of recommendations based on all that input and information as kind of a vision to then, not be decided by us, right? So we're providing a set of recommendations. We're not making any choices. We're just providing a vision to the board, to the library, to the town, to look at and say, okay, based on this, we're going to go exactly that direction, or maybe slightly that direction with some variations and things. So that's the kind of concept. So one of the things I like to do with these is, instead of building up to what we recommend, I like to just jump to what we say, right? And then we'll kind of step back and explain how we got there and what we heard that led us to these conclusions. But the biggest thing, I think I start with that at the top there to keep it open, because we had a lot of people coming to the sessions thinking that this whole process was about justifying closing the library here in Ramsdell, right? So even if that was the mission, which it wasn't, the conclusion couldn't have been further from that we feel like all of the information and the input and data points to keeping Ramsdell open, to making it a long-term, say, permanent part of this community. But definitely that it needs to evolve to a more focused approach, with the opportunity to make it a really vibrant part of the community. Not just a vibrant piece of architecture, but a vibrant building, a vibrant living kind of space for the community. A couple of things that go into that is, again, that focus. It doesn't have to be a traditional library. I think one of the things we kept hearing was, don't try to make it a mini Mason, right? Make it something more special, make it more unique, make it really fit. Don't just try to make it the small Mason. A lot of comments about hours, so really rethinking the hours. Our suggestion was, based on the input we heard, is because there's so much confusion on when are we open on this day and that day, is just pick 4 straight days, Thursday to Sunday. Make those hours pretty consistent within those 4 days. Specialized programming. So the thing we kept hearing time and time again was art, history, and youth. Those are the 3 things we just kept hearing time and time again. It's in the survey. It was in almost every focus group discussion we had, was really hitting on those 3 topics. So really focused programming. Specialize that. Make it a destination. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Focus the collection. So often one of the things that can be the most controversial in the evolution of libraries is having less books in the building. We don't always do that. We don't go into every project. In some projects we actually have said we need larger collections. But here I think the statistics told us, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, was a more focused collection. a smaller physical collection in that building, but increasing the ease and opportunity for getting materials to the building so that you can still have the access, the full access of not only what's within the Great Barrington Library, but through the whole network of CWMRs, right? You have that whole collection of CWMRs, really simplifying and making that easy and convenient so that you can get those materials, so that a reduced physical collection in this building doesn't really create any kind of dearth of access to materials. And then update the space, so make it feel, an homage to the history, but update it, create more opportunities. You have a couple thoughts and suggestions on how that relayout might be best be done, but literally just a single concept. It doesn't matter that those things are done, but really rethinking that space, adding more seating and more gathering and meeting areas, collaborative spaces. So we will. So the way I forgot to start. I usually say so. Our approach is we like this to be a discussion, but I want to get through about slide 12, and you'll see when I get to a big list of the things we're going to talk about recommendation-wise, that if you have questions, we definitely want to start taking them at that point. So the opportunity, but I'd like to get through a few slides to get you through the meat of how we kind of got to these recommendations, so you have some context before we kind of jump into specific questions. So the process, we talked about this, the community discussion groups, the survey, we had about 300 completed surveys, which is a good number for a community this size. Had much bigger communities that had much less, so 300 is a good number for this size community. We looked at collection data, we looked at a lot of things, and then we developed the recommendations from there. Things that we heard from the community. So if anybody's poured through the bigger report, you can see there's a lot more detail to the things that we heard and said, but just some of the high level things. Again, overwhelming support for keeping this library open, right? Keeping it's an important piece of this community. Its services are important to the people that live here, not just in Housatonic, but the broader Great Barrington area. But many people talked in almost every conversation. I remember vividly the conversation we had here. This idea of it doesn't have to be that many Mason. It can be different. It can be we want it to be special. We want it to be unique, but giving us, making more value, bringing more value out of that building in the community. And I think just the thing we kept seeing from folks was the importance that library means to this, particularly the village of Housatonic, and that any kind of shift away from that being the library or diminishment of the services there to a severe degree would have definite negative impacts for the village of Housatonic, but ultimately for the greater part of Great Barrington as well. The survey thing, we heard very similar information in the survey. And the survey was a good mix, actually one of the best mixes we've seen of users versus what we call kind of non-users or infrequent users. Usually it's hard to get that kind of balance, so we've got a good balance of users and what we call non-users. But again, we heard similar things. Don't necessarily have to be, all things and trying to have every book and have every service and all the hours there. A lot of this kind of ideas, whether it was stated specifically as community center in their verbiage, or they said other things that kind of still gave that same connotation, that was frequent, particularly in the comments. And there was a lot of comments in this survey. So not only 303 respondents, but a lot of them left very extensive comments, which is also not common. And I think one of the things that was most telling, because when we walk into these situations, we never know what we're coming into, right? We don't live here, we don't know, right? And so, we heard certain things that, maybe there's some negative sentiments and things, but only 5 out of the 303 respondents on the survey said anything about closing, right? And I'm pretty sure 3 of the 5 were the same person. Or at least they told their friends, here, go put this in the survey. I'm not sure. One of the two, either the same person or they gave the script to their friends and had them in it. Because everything was almost word for word the same thing. So definitely not any kind of, I would say even a remote undercurrent of negativity towards the library being open. So I think that speaks, volumes, and I think a good turnout through the focus groups and a good turnout tonight, I think also echoes that. A couple other things that these are always just the things that because all we do as libraries, these are the things that kind of resonate in our head as we're talking to any community in terms of trends and things that, and if you went to any of the focus groups, we talked about some of these things, right? The fact that physical books aren't going away. Some people think that everything's going to ebooks, but in fact, we may be close to hitting a plateau in terms of ebook usage by the population. There's not this huge wave of digital natives that only want to read on devices. And in fact, some of the early studies are showing digital natives actually prefer a book at higher frequency over older generations. So physical books aren't going to be gone. So that myth, I think, we feel pretty comfortable putting that to bed. That there's always segments within the community that need the library and need it desperately, right? No matter how affluent there may be, a community may be overall, or how much affluence there may be in pockets. Even in the wealthiest communities that we've worked with across the country, we've worked with some of the wealthiest. There's always still pockets of people in those communities that live there that need desperately the services, and probably more today than ever, right? That literacy, right? It used to be 60 years ago, the illiteracy rate in this country was still pretty high. That's come way down, right? But even though it's way down, there's still all kinds of other forms of literacy that libraries play an important role. It's technology or financial or just health and well-being, right? Literacy comes across a lot of angles, and the library's a big player in that. And that plays into that whole concept of lifelong learning. That we never stop being students in life. And there's some seats up here if you're looking for a seat. And libraries play a huge role there. And I think one of the things that not every community embraces is the library as a gathering place, but we definitely heard it in the community discussions groups, and we definitely saw it in the survey results, that people are looking for that from the Ramsdell Library, to have it as a gathering place, particularly in this community, because there isn't another outlet. There is no other place in Housatonic for people to gather and come together. So that in particular was a really critical need here. So some big picture things. One of the things we're always trying to do is we try to think of what are the naysayers, going to say as we start developing the recommendations and we get a direction. What would the naysayers say to the things? And 2 public libraries in a community this size, that's ridiculous. We don't need that. Well, 2 public libraries in a community size is not really that uncommon, right? It's not everywhere. We have a client in Indiana, same size community, 3 branches, 2 standalone and 1 retail. So it's not unheard of. It's not all that uncommon. It's not for every community. But the fact is, if you were going to come to us and say we want to build a second location, we'd probably be like, for your size, probably not. But you've got this built, beautiful, historic building. That's an asset that I don't think you would really ever want to give up. And even though the locations are only 15 minutes apart, it's, I would say, a long 15 minutes, and can be much longer in certain situations. And I think, the overall Great Barrington is pretty sprawling. So I think that 2 locations is kind of justified in that sense as well. A couple things that would also be kind of key considerations in the future if you were looking at other alternatives, and we're going to talk about in a second, is, how important is it to the community? We talked about that. If it was evolved, can it add further value beyond even what it's providing today? And we're going to talk about that. And if the library was closed, what would be lost, right? Not just in terms of what's lost here, but what's lost for Great Barrington as a whole. How does that further shift the burden of carrying the overall, the overall community further to other parts of the community, as if Housatonic, this was closed, and that led to further kind of decay of the village. Kind of building on that, we looked at, what would be the alternatives, and there are all a lot of downsides. Really, very few upsides. Even on the cost side, it's a historic building. The library can't sell it. The deed doesn't allow them to sell it, so they're still going to have to maintain it. So even if you close it as an operational kind of library, it's not like the costs are going to go to zero, right? So, so there's some savings, but I think if you look at, like I said, the costs to the community, the cost, not just to Housatonic, but the whole community, is much higher than the cost of operating the facility today or into the future. So what is possible, right? So, let's assume one of the things is that we kind of operate on the assumption based on some things is it's not like you guys are going to go out and pass a tax levy and build a new, do a big construction project on the building for renovation. But what does that mean? Does that mean that you're not going to be able to do anything? No. I think there is a ton of evidence, and I think particularly you happen to be in probably one of the best states for libraries if you need to build in Massachusetts. Because with the construction grant program that's here, one of the best in the country. So some examples, we talked about these in the focus groups. Hudson Library in New York, huge project. We don't even know the final price tag because it was a public-private partnership. They turned an old armory and converted an old armory drill shed into a library. Absolutely gorgeous. Probably close to $10 million total put into it. Nothing from taxpayers, right? No impact to the taxpayers of Hudson to build that library. You're going to have to say this for me again, Pat. Leicester. So Leicester in Massachusetts.
It says Leicester right there on the side.
I know. So I won't tell you how bad I pronounce some Massachusetts town names. For a long time in high school, I'll say I wanted to go to the Worcester Public Polytechnic Institute. So sorry, you have to forgive my Midwestern inability to pronounce those names. But they got $7 million of their expansion and renovation through grants and fundraising. Irving, this is just a fairly recent one. A community of, I think we think about 2,000 people got $2.7 million from the state for their nearly $5 million library. Okay, so with the MLBC, Massachusetts Library Board of Commissioners, and the construction grants through that program, and then in particular, I think even as we're going to talk about some short-term things, there's some specific grants specifically for ADA kind of projects up to like $250,000 that might help for some more short-term kind of as a phased approach to this. There's a lot of opportunities to help fund this that don't mean going to the taxpayers, right? That can be funded through a combination of those grants, fundraising, and out of existing kind of operational and capital dollars. All right, so I'm unleashing you for any questions. I have other stuff to go through, but if you have questions on what we've covered to this point, or feel free to ask any questions from this point forward as we go. So any questions to what we've heard so far? All right, you guys are very cooperative. Okay. So I'm just going to go. These are all the kind of key issues and recommendations that we kind of got into in more detail in the report. So just kind of listing those here. ADA, number one issue, right? You got a great building that can't even be used by a good percentage of the population right now, or can't conveniently be used even by the able-bodied who have strollers and things like that, right? The things that someone in a maybe going to Mason might take for granted of being able to just push their stroller right into the library. Not an option here. So ADA is the number one short-term issue, and it's something that really has to be looked at long-term. There's a lot of and it's not just, there's things with ADA, if you're not really, it doesn't just stop with getting in the door, right? It's things like bathrooms, it's doors, it's aisleways, like something as simple as the space between the stacks is not wide enough, right? That's an ADA issue. So there's a lot of different things, and kind of just even the space between furniture and things like that. It's really just a complete non-compliance from the stairs in. So addressing that, something immediately in the short term, again, maybe through existing capital dollars combined potentially with state grants to really get at least people in the door, right? Letting the full community have access to the building, I think is a definite thing to look at. Yep.
And I apologize if this is redundant.
That's okay. Yeah, that's all right.
I'm wondering if ADA provides kind of a boilerplate for specifics just for libraries.
Appendix C of our report outlines specific things of ADA consideration for libraries. So yes, it does. Yep. And there are copies of that report. If you haven't seen it, there are copies of the report at the Ramsdell Library on the table. So.
And again, I apologize.
No, it's fine. Electrical and environmental system. So I will say that when we wrote this report, there was no air conditioning. Now we at least had what I would call makeshift air conditioning, right? Not necessarily what I would call system-wide air conditioning, but makeshift air conditioning. So that's improved a little bit. But overall, the mechanical, electrical, heating, cooling, just totally inadequate for a modern building, right? I mean, one of the most important things in libraries today, outlets. Outlets are surpassing the importance of books in some cases, right? Serious dearth of outlets in the library, and I didn't really find any where you really want to, be able to sit in. I mean, there's pretty limited. So, and then the restroom as well is too small. It's not ADA compliant, so that kind of fits into that. So all of these things have to be addressed in the long term, right, to make the building a viable 21st century public facility. Space allocation. So I kind of hit on this earlier. One of the things that often is the most controversial issue, and sometimes in our presentation. If you look at the statistics, the average circulation rate of an item in the Ramsdell Library is half a book per year, which means that on average, half of the books in that library didn't go out at all, right? But it's actually worse than that, right? Because most of the books that go out multiple times, right? So probably somewhere in the half to 3/4 of the books in the building haven't circulated in over a year. Probably, my guess is 30 to 40% of those books haven't circulated in 5 years, right? So we're not willing to get rid of books, okay? But we think that collections should be sized to the usage levels, right? So that's why we say that there's too much space being allocated to store books that nobody is using, right? And that space could be more effectively, more efficiently deployed for other things. Now, this isn't going to limit anybody's access to books. First and foremost, the one thing you're going to have is the new materials. You definitely still want to have used materials because those are very much browsing of the instant kind of books, so picture books and things for kids and things. Working with the schools to make sure that collections are still there to support the curriculum pieces, still critical and important to have in the building. But there's a huge collection of DVDs that probably haven't circulated in 3 or 4 years in there. There's huge collections of nonfiction that's probably out of date, right? I mean, sometimes people get like, oh, we can't get rid of books. All libraries get rid of books, right? Otherwise, that library would be full of books from 1930, right? All libraries get rid of books. It's okay. The collection has to evolve. We just think that a smaller standing collection would be more effective in that library. With that, though, a couple things. Have some really deep, specialized collection. We talked about art history, right? So have some really deep collections in those. Make Ramsdell, and a lot of libraries have a local history room. Ramsdell is the local history room for the Great Barrington Public Library. Instead of a room, you have a building, right? Same thing with the art and youth and things like that. And then you have the collections in Mason. You have the full collections available to Cedar Mars. Come up with strategies to make it stupid easy to find and place hold for those materials, right? And particularly within the Mason system, you can't really control how fast those materials come from CWMRs, although I suspect it's probably fairly quick. But put the kind of systems in place so that it's very quick. When you put a hold, it's maybe worst case next day, right? And then we'll talk as well as other technologies have a locker system outside where those holds can be placed so that you can pick up those materials 24/7, whether the library's open or not, right? So yes, reduce the collection, but do some things to offset that to make it so that there's really no loss of service and no real loss of access to those materials, even though you're not using them anyway, so you're probably not going to miss them. And if you didn't see the shelf shrinks, you probably wouldn't know they weren't there. But some things, and I think a couple other things on the space. We think the new space needs to be a little bigger based on the community. based on kind of the demographics of what's kind of moving into the community. We have a good collection of parents and families in the back. We appreciate you coming. And we think that space needs to be a little bigger. We think, again, this is just a suggestion, we think that space would be better served in the back of the library, right? The front part of the library, the more historic part of the library, adults appreciate history. Kids don't care, right? Also, if you move the children's space to the back, and we'll see in some drawings, you could create some sound isolation. You could put up glass walls, and you could actually create some sound isolation so that parents can feel free to bring their kids into the library and not feel like, oh gosh, they're screaming and yelling and having a fit, and there's somebody over there trying to work, and we haven't, I feel horrible and I need to leave, right? So that's something we hear a lot from, is wanting some a little bit more of that separation. So that would give you that ability and allow the adults to really have that front historic area. People that are going to really appreciate the architecture, appreciate the grandeur of the space, put them up in that space. And then potentially segregate the one side as a quiet area and one side as a collaboration and gathering space, right? So you kind of have that designated as well. A little bit more on collection. So when we say we're suggesting a target of 10,000 items or under, you're right now at about 21,000. At least when we got the collection report, which was probably back in May or April, and I know you guys have been doing some meetings since then. So, but basically about a 50% cut. But again, only cutting the stuff that isn't circulating, right? So we're not saying get rid of stuff that you guys are borrowing. We're saying pull off the stuff that isn't. Okay? Focus on those three primary areas, and then any freestanding. So you have a lot of perimeter shelf. I think you want to keep that, right? That's a part of the architecture, really, of the building. The big metal stacks, kind of in that center section. Sorry, those are going to have to go. They're not ADA compliant. There's really no way to reutilize those and keep ADA compliance. Although the end panels are magnificent. It should be whoever does the renovation should find a way to incorporate those into the space. But the shelving themselves is not really functional and not appropriate. And what we suggest is any freestanding shelving you have in the middle of the space, so not the wall shelving, but freestanding shelving, be on casters. So this lets you have flexibility day to day, and also flexibility year to year as you further evolve and adapt the library and things change. You can reposition and move things around. And these don't have to be, I mean, we're showing modern shelf here. I mean, Pat and I were talking about, there's cabinet makers in the area, right? These could be, particularly with a historic building, you can work with a local cabinet maker to make shelving that's from the area, from local trees, right? That fits in with the architecture of the building, but sits on casters so you can move it. Meeting spaces. So this is, again, we heard, the need for meeting space, the need for gathering space. So first and foremost, set up those adult areas so they can have some spaces for some ad hoc meetings and ad hoc gathering, right? It's sort of there now, but just, kind of make that more intentional. Make the current art room kind of a reservable meeting room. Once the upper level is made ADA accessible, that becomes your big, large programming room, right? It's a beautiful space. If you haven't been up there, it's amazing. But that becomes your large meeting room. And then I think one of the things that we said that I think maybe might make some people uncomfortable, probably make the people in Housatonic, yes, is utilize technology to make that building broadly more accessible, right? Whether it's some kind of RFID tag and you qualify as a library volunteer that can bring a group and have a meeting outside of library hours, right? You've got this building, find ways to maximize the usage. There's tricky things you're going to have to work through. Insurance, I mean, it's not a simple thing. But Europe's been doing this for 10 years. Actually, a European company, Biblioteca, has just brought this technology to the United States. They have a solution, kind of an out of the box, where you use your library card to access the library outside of library hours. So this is not unprecedented, it's not unheard of, and in a small community like this, I think it makes sense, and it seems like an asset that you want to make the most of. Youth services, we've kind of hit on this a little bit. One of the things we haven't hit, kind of browsable picture books. These are, if you haven't seen these, parents love these because kids This is how, those of us that lived through the era of vinyl, remember looking through records. This is how picture books were designed to be looked at, is face out, not spine out. They take a little bit more space, but way worth it. Most of our clients that have switched to picture book browsing have seen their picture book collection circulation go up 30 to 40% with no other change other than just switching to flippable, browsable books. So like we said, put the youth in that back area. We think put the teens kind of in the center, that kind of center space close to the service point, close to the youth, but a little bit separated from those adult wings. So give them a little bit of that separation. It's a small building. You can't give them the teen room that you might want to give them at a larger library, but you can give them a space. And it can be a space that's also used by adults then when the teens are in school, right? So you're not trying to make that intention. And then glass walls, potentially for both areas, but particularly for that back area. And I'll kind of highlight that in our concept. Technology, digital services. So we kind of joked about one of the most important things in the library right now is the outlet, right? So having that power. And what we say is not even power anymore, right? It's not just AC, having the USB ports, the power to USB ports, right? So having outlets that have 120 volts and the USB. So as long as you have your cable, don't have to have your adapter. Make Wi-Fi everywhere, right? So I mean, Wi-Fi library should be rock solid, right? That should be like art. Wi-Fi should be as bread and butter as books are in the library these days. So make sure that's, and I think in particular, we think set it up so that it intentionally extends to the outside of the library, so that you have a 24/7 library, right? We're going to talk about outdoor space here in a minute too, that people can use. There's a lot of grants still. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is not doing as much as they used to, but there's still lots of grants for technology and things. And like audiovisual equipment perhaps in the upstairs community. Lower level usage. So I think the hidden gym, right? We have 3 gyms in the library. We have the main floor, which is a gym, a somewhat hidden, unused gym right now in the upstairs community room, program room. But the real hidden gem, I think, that's not seen is the basement. Because the minute I walked down there, I wanted to turn it into a coffee shop and a makerspace. If you don't know what a makerspace is, it's really just a fancy word for, think of like a creativity studio, right? Sometimes they have 3D printers. We just opened one in the Indianapolis area, 15,000 square feet, art-based makerspace. It's got a messy art area, sewing areas, craft areas, audio-visual equipment, and production, 3D printers, laser etchers, right? You don't have to have any of those. They could just be an art table, right? I mean, a makerspace is just a place where people can come and create. But I think one of the things we heard a lot of is you've got some folks that live in the community that work from home, that have home-based businesses, that are telecommuters, seasonal folks, having a co-working space. It's an area that's kind of says, hey, come and work here. We got great Wi-Fi, we got a Keurig, right? You can come and network with other people. So having that kind of really intentional co-working space would be a good thing. And then another thing that's a big trend in libraries is what's kind of referred to as the library of things. Really, it's just saying, you know what we do with books, but like checking them out, do it with other stuff, right? So whether it's laptops or iPads and technology, art tools, because you got this art focus, maker kits, so you can have a maker space, but even maybe hand and power tools, right? So not trying to compete with local business, but providing things to people in a convenient way. And as Pat said, when he's talked to some libraries that have done really big library of things with tools, the local hardware stores were opposed at first because like, oh, you're competing with us. Turns out those people come to get a sander, oh, they got to go buy their own sandpaper, right? So now they're going to the hardware store, they buy 3 other things. So they all kind of were negative, and then they kind of turned around because it actually worked the other direction. Sometimes things aren't always intuitive. Don't want to forget staff space, because the building doesn't operate if you don't have some people there once in a while, and making sure they have adequate space and the space they need to do, and to space for off time, off desk time. They do other things than just sit there and check out your books, right? So it's important that they have the appropriate resources and space to do their work, and storage to do the things, and programming. Really, if you're going to make big programming, it's like, I don't know, there's some equation somewhere for every number of programs you run equals X number of square footage of storage you have to have, right? So if you're gonna have more programming, you're gonna have to have more storage as well. Okay, so again, we're not architects, we're designers, we do interior design, but we're not architects. This piece right here was done by a previous architect in a previous one of these projects where they looked at. So we just kind of took that, so we make we take no kind of ownership of that per se. We think it seems reasonable. And just then looked at kind of the overall space allocation. So like we talked about, this is the main level, front door here. So they put the renovation kind of on this level. It's kind of like a split level house kind of thing, right? So you come in on grade, and then you have to go up a short set of stairs to the level of the library, or you take the elevator up to that level, right? So that makes it 80 long. We would put kind of the teen and flexible community space here, youth in the back, and this is what we were talking about. You've got these 2 columns right here, perfect kind of thing for having some glass. Maybe this middle one is a glass barn door that slides to the side, so when it's noisy, the librarian pulls it shut. When it's quiet, they have it open. We talked about making the art room kind of a meeting and program room. All this is an adult space. Kind of popular library in the middle, so that's your newest materials, maybe some of the AV. The back would be either, depending on how you do the upstairs, would either be staff space or could also be a small meeting room, depending on how that allocates out. Some options there, certainly. You look at the lower level, again, we're just kind of chunking this out, but having maybe you come right down to like a lower lobby venue area. Kind of over here along all the great exposed brick, you have kind of a co-working space, kind of think of a Genius bar, a laptop bar, kind of just an open maker space in here, probably maybe over in the corners, the library of things with the storage and the tools and the things you can check out. Some part of this may be allocated, made safe for historical storage with the Historical Society. The upper level, one option if one of the things that was uncertain to us, it's not up for us to decide. We talked with the Historical Society, we talked with the board a little bit. We kind of didn't put in direct recommendations around this. We think it can go either direction. It's really not as much a building issue as it's what's the community want and need, and where are the best, how does the partnership and thing work out there. But we showed the concept here where the Historical Society Commission kind of keep space on the side, maybe some displays, again, staff area in the upper kind of view. So again, just concepts, block diagram kind of concepts, just in terms of allocation. But that big change, moving the children that are here back to here, this is a little bit bigger. I think I heard some feedback. It's like, why wouldn't we give the kids a great view? I'm not sure the view of the hillside of weeds is. I don't know why that's necessarily an awesome view. I think seems like a pretty good spot to put the kids because they don't care. They want to see the toys and books in front of them. They're not really care what that's doing. Outdoors. Huge opportunity for outdoor space here, particularly if you went to a situation where you were open 4 days a week. Those other 3 days a week, you've got still a kind of a library that's open when the weather's not horrible. With a great outdoor space, have some good, nice, kind of outdoor furniture, community garden area maybe. We've got to address the ADA parking because that would be part of the ADA. You can't park on the street. They have to have some parking up close to the building within a certain distance. And I'm not an expert, so I don't know exactly. But we think in particular a drive-up materials return, if it could be done, would be ideal. Potentially with the cooperation of the church, maybe that could come through here. We'll show you some concepts that we have. And like I talked about, a 24/7 holds locker pickup. Lots of people are doing these. These aren't super expensive. They're super easy, and they're integrate with your library card. Just a couple of concepts that we had in terms of outdoor space. So this is looking down. Here's the church. Here's the library. Here's the Catholic Church. Have some nice outdoor patio areas here. The addition would be here, the drive-up materials return would be here, and then like the ADA parking spaces would be here. And then basically what you do is you make this whole thing one way, back out right through here and you go out and exit through the church's parking lot. Concept 2 gives you don't even know if this would work. Sometimes they can be historical, because it's a historical building, this might not even work. But just gives you the ability, this could actually be two-way right here, so that you don't necessarily, if you park there, you don't necessarily have to go all the way through the church. And then once you hit this spot, it's one way, the rest of the way for the materials repair. So again, we're not architects, and we're definitely not landscape architects. So just giving you some thoughts of where kind of blocks of where things can go. So phasing approach. You're not going to go float a bond for this like some communities in the country. So you got to think about this in terms of phases, right? Number one priority is ADA, so that's got to be phase one. Whether it's grants or capital dollars that from existing budgets, figuring out how to solve in a temporary way the ADA accessibility. Probably some kind of ramp system on the front, not something that would be historically accurate, but something that would be temporary that lets people get in to the library in a compliant way. And maybe do some rearrangement of the lower level, whether it's what we suggested or just some different tweaks. Maybe going maybe a half step towards that collection shift, right? Pulling out some of the shelving and creating more space. Phase two, this will be the big one, right? This will be the big lift. This is where you'd be going out for trying to get the construction grants from the state. This is where the big fundraising lift would go in terms of getting that. And this is really gets the whole building really up to speed, right? Doesn't touch we wouldn't finish out that lower level idea, right? You would really just get the building ADA compliant, get it modernized, get all the mechanical systems, finish out some of the allocation things, maybe put in the glass walls for the youth area. These are very rough numbers, 2.5 to 4.5. With a historical building like this, it is no way for us to tell, right? I mean, you really can't know until you get an architect in there and look at that. So take those definitely with a grain of salt. We tried that 4.5 number is probably pretty conservative, but you just never know with a historic building, particularly because you have to deal with the mechanical systems. That can be pricey sometimes. And then phase three, if you something with that lower level, right? Making that co-working space, and that would probably be another kind of more of a grand fundraising element. Financing. So talked about grants. So the other thing is with the fundraising is getting a foundation established, right? Friends groups are great, but friends groups are kind of geared at what they do. And yes, it's fundraising, but it's a different kind of fundraising, right? So having a foundation that their sole purpose is the fundraising for this capital campaign. There's tons. I guarantee you, there's a lot of libraries around here that have done it. Hudson's a great example. They raised I don't know how many $1 million as a part of their project. Talked to Pat about there's a company called an organization called Library Strategies out of Minneapolis. It's a big part of what they do is help libraries set up foundations and do fundraising. So it's not something we do. So and part of that is figuring out then, as a part of that, what is that deeper vision? And then I think working with the historical community, society and commission, and figuring out what is their role, right? We left that as a big question mark. What is the role for that group? What is their presence in the building? What is in their role in all of this? So that's something to be sorted out as a part of the financing, but not just the financing, really the whole vision of the building. Like we said, we left that all as question marks. Next steps. So, figure out what you're going to do, assess the strategy. One of the things I would suggest is that the board kind of put a group together, meet with directors and library boards of other libraries around the area and around Massachusetts that have gone through the grant process with the state, that have gone through construction, find out what they've learn from them, what they've done, go through that process, develop kind of a strategic and financial and fundraising plan. I'm sure that's one of the things that Library Strategy is going to tell you to probably do. Define those project phasings, get going on the ADA grants, right? Because that's the priority. I know that one that I talked about, the Massachusetts one, that window's open now through like October or November. So getting some of that, those things targeted, and start the Massachusetts construction grant process, because that's a multi-year, multi-step process. more questions. Okay, yes.
You've touched upon the use of the library after hours.
Yep.
In your layout, in the design, did you section off parts of the library collection so it can be locked off, and then the community rooms can be used by community-based organizations for after hours?
We did. I think that's something. If you got to that architectural phase, I think you could talk with the architect. Is there a way with the ADA edition to accomplish that? I would say is in a community like Great Barrington and Housatonic, DVDs aren't getting stolen like they used to.
I'm just saying that
Right.
historical.
Right. So you would definitely historical high value pieces.
Right.
You can have locking cabinets, right? You can have shelving that has cabinets that come down, things that come down to lock that. So we would probably suggest looking at having more targeted security as opposed to trying to design the whole building so that you could only get access to certain places.
Because I think it would be important for the library to demonstrate to the community, the organizations in the community that they want to use the library after hours, that this would be their home.
Right.
They could use it and it would be very practical for them.
Right. And I think the thing too is that it would be, my suggestion would be you did it in a way that groups got vetted and they went through a training, right? And then when they were in the building, if you had the security to say, okay, we know, John checked in with his RFID card, his group has the building, that there's an accountability and a responsibility that you take for that too, right?
And also in your layout space, are there areas for self-checkout?
Yeah. We didn't get down to that granularity, but we would suggest, there's not a high search, so it's not necessarily like, oh gosh, you have to have self-check, but, having a self-check machine doesn't hurt. I find it a privacy issue these days, right? More than a self-service issue, because maybe I don't want the staff, particularly in a small community, I don't want the staff to know I'm necessarily checking out this book on, marriage issues, because I don't want them to. Right? So I think self-check in small communities is more about privacy than it is about expediency.
Or how to dig a grave in my backyard.
Right. Someone in the back had a question. Yeah. I would love to, but I don't know that I really have any foundation in doing that. But I think that is, typically my experience from the private sector, historic tax credits are great for corporations that want to use historic properties, but in a library that doesn't pay taxes, but in fact is essentially a beneficiary of tax credits or taxes. Right. Well, yeah, that's true. Yes, I have seen that done. Yes. Yeah, that's right. That is one thing that can be done. Yeah, you get them and then you sell them off. I'm not sure exactly why that works, but yes.
But I believe that only works. That does not work for municipal owned.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's not possible.
That could be, and I know that varies by state a little bit because they actually are doing that in Indiana. Now you said that, it reminded me they're doing it in Indiana, but it may not work in Massachusetts. Yes.
The movable shelving is going to be in what is now currently the entrance hall.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that, we didn't really do a shelving layout plan, but I would, any shelving that you had here, or here, in the middle of the space, we would say put on casters, right? If it's not attached to the wall, put it on casters. You can imagine if if this space is still open, and any shelving and kind of furniture you have is easy and mobile, you can basically turn this whole space into a program room, right? And that's actually what I would say you would do once you get the building ADA, that temporary ADA accessibility. Start running programming again. This is a meeting room.
Or if the government changes their standards, then you just widen the aisles.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Are you saying that what is now the entrance, the beautiful front entrance, will not be used anymore?
No, well, first of all, not architect, right? So I don't think they were insinuating that you would close this entrance. Some libraries, when they do these kind of projects, do. I would say we always vote for keeping them open if you can. It's a small library. It's not like there's a bunch of people running through the library, stealing materials and going out the door, right? So I would suggest leaving that accessible in this case. Yeah, I mean, I think you would keep that up. I mean, we're working with the Philadelphia Free Library right now. They have an old Carnegie building that they renovated, and they did something similar to this where they added a second. They still have that entrance to the street in a high crime district still open. So why would you ever close a beautiful entrance like that? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Is there ever been historic support for this library? Ramsdell name, I don't know where that comes from, but is there any philanthropic basis that one can go back and explore? That's question number one. Question number two is, I assume GB is ultimately responsible for this library, and the same way it's responsible for Casey. So can one draw upon GB's professional staff to make the grant? Do the grant?
Yeah, it's all one staff, right? I mean, it's one library, 2 locations.
But I mean, probably not even the library has necessarily people who can make the grant.
Oh, you'd be surprised. Remember, librarians have master's degrees, so right. So I would say the vast majority of librarians, so MLS librarians that have their master's degree, are probably very capable of writing a grant application.
But what about the?
Would you agree?
What about the history question?
I couldn't speak to that. I don't think. Can anyone in the room speak to the history piece?
The Ramsdell?
Just
Yeah.
briefly, I'm with the Historical Commission. The Ramsdell Library is called the Ramsdell Library because Theodore Ramsdell, who owned the mills, he passed, left money in his will for his family to delegate for building a library. So most of the library being built was as a result of his family donating money for the library.
Is the family still?
Is there family still? Is there just
Somebody in Maine, there's some, not rich, no. Nobody rich left.
Their fates went with mills, I guess, right? Yeah, Holly.
I just wanted to point out that there is some thought that the green area where the meeting, which is now the art room, that might, or at least for a transitionary period, be better suited for the children's room. Because it does have 2 doors that can close, and since noise is such a big issue, it also would not involve a glass wall, which may or may not conform to the historic register's notion of what we're supposed to look like. I think that the trustees and Pat have done such a great job getting so much information out to the public, and we're trying to sort of ride a wave. And I think that if we were to transition into that room for the children's room and have the former children's room be the collection, the art book collection, that people would see some change.
Sure.
And that would help generate. I think we need to be making small but visible improvements constantly in order to generate fundraising.
Yeah, I would say all options, that and many others, should be on the table as you look at what steps go forward. The only thing I would say from a long-term standpoint is that space is probably too small. It's smaller square footage-wise than this existing one, so you would be giving up some space. But perhaps the early literacy picture books, some of the younger stuff is in there, and then maybe spills out to older kid collections, so that you maybe still have the overall footprint. So yeah, absolutely. That some of those things should definitely be options on the table. And I agree with you. Showing progress, showing action, showing advancement is a great way to get the community more behind it, get funders saying, hey, yeah, they're not just words, they're action. Yeah.
This area and a lot of Berkshire is food oriented. Farm to table,
Yep.
we have great chefs in the area. Is anything going to be set up here so that there can be chefs coming in for
God, please put a kitchen in your makerspace. Yes, I'm a home chef, so every time anyone of our clients talks to makerspace, I want them to put in like a kitchen. Their libraries are afraid of that for some reason. We can't seem to talk anyone into it, but I agree with you. Put a kitchen in there. Hey, they take the books home and they burn. I mean, they take the books home to their kitchen when their things are burning, right? So.
Would you create a fund at the Berkshire Community Foundation in lieu of going to the big role of setting up a foundation?
Potentially, yeah, so like a designated, like a managed piece off of the existing, yeah.
It's already there, the mechanisms are there.
Yeah. I think that's something that should be considered. I don't know what the trade-offs are to that, but it's definitely something that should be discussed. Like I said, I'm not an expert on the fundraising side, so I hate to speak too much to the pros and cons of that. Other questions? Thoughts?
Wow.
Yes, Pat?
Why don't you tell them about the Greenwich? We're talking about money right now.
Oh, the story I told you earlier? So we're talking about money. So Pat was talking, he'd been to the Greenwich, Connecticut Library not too long ago, and how it's a beautiful library. It's one of those, I would say, spare no expense kind of libraries, right? And what I said is, well, it's easier to do that. Well, first of all, you have the tax base that Greenwich has, right? They also have like a $5 or $6 million endowment. And he said, oh yeah, the hedge fund guys. I said, no, it's pretty much all one person. And the story goes that there was a gentleman that came to the library almost every day in the afternoon, and they had a bunch of like kind of lounge chairs, like really kind of comfortable soft seats you can kind of lay back in. And almost every day he'd come in the afternoon and take like a 2-hour nap. Never interacted with staff, nobody really knew who he was, kept to himself, never got any materials, never like picked up a paper, just came in and took a nap. One day he stopped coming in, and they noticed, right? But they didn't know who he was. They didn't really know how to, check on him or anything. And I guess it was like a couple years later, he had passed. A couple years later, the wife passed, and all of a sudden they're notified that there's going to be like, I don't know, they're getting like $4 or $5 million from an endowment. And basically, the story as it's told, and I don't know if this is 100% what ended, but the story, the way it kind of get told is, essentially his wife was grateful that the library got him off her hands every day for 2 hours. So I normally tell that story when people go, like, sometimes libraries get upset because people are sleeping, and usually if they're upset about it, it's because someone that's maybe homeless or, not at the best part of their life, and they're coming to the library and sleeping. And I tell them that story. Is, you know what, that sleeping person might be a $5 million endowment waiting to happen. So don't be so quick to chase them out of your library. But these things are possible. These things happen. Hudson, they had basically a single benefactor funded about 70% of that project. Now in this case, he was a developer. He wanted to, he did some quid pro quo. So he took the library's property, he moved them into the armory. So there was some, it wasn't just him writing a check, there was some financial upside in the development thing for him. But, those things occur. I'm sure someone that's in the fundraising world can tell you a lot better stories. Again, it's not so much our area, so I don't have as many good ones on that front. But there is this is very possible. If we were in another state, I'd be kind of like, but in Massachusetts with a very structured grant series program, 50% grant match, I feel very comfortable saying that this is not something that couldn't be done. This is definitely something that's within this community's reach. You've got a good story to tell. You've got good reasons to do it. There's a good canvas there, right? There's a good canvas there, and I feel like it is a project that definitely could be successful, and that you wouldn't be wasting your energy. That it is something that it can be done successfully. Yeah.
Now you threw a number out there, which was the back of the napkin estimate. Was your back of the napkin estimate real dollars, or was that prevailing wage dollars?
I would say it's both. I mean, I gave you the range, right? So I did put what I would call the Massachusetts public dollar kind of number on that. I mean, all the projects we do are pretty much prevailing wage because we only do with libraries. So the basis of how we look at pricing is always in that structure. But again, because it's a historic structure, and at the end of the day, you don't know what you're really going to have to do in terms of ADA and making something that's compliant. So that creates a huge variability in that. I just want to say, I love this project. I really have. I told Kim as I was getting ready for this, I'm like, I was like, I got to do some. I know I need to do slides, but I really don't feel like I need to because I feel like I knew this project and this library and everything so well. I could have just got up here and talked for 45 minutes about why that building and why that building should be kept, why it's a good foundation, and some things and ideas of what you can do to really take that to another level. And I just want to thank you guys for coming out tonight as well to kind of hearing this report, and your questions have been great. So.
Thank you.
Let me just tell you a couple other things. Last night at the select board, we had a discussion about a lot of these various things, and we're trying to put a deadline on when we can make this handicap accessible. And what I said to them is a commitment we're going to try to make here is before the first hard frost, we get it in. Because we've got to do it before winter sets in. It shouldn't be, if we have a deadline, I think we can make it. And as we saw with the air conditioning and everything else, those little things around us that make a huge difference. If we get, there's so much of the period, as Rob said, that can't get in the building. It's awful. People who grew up here, and little kids been going there, they're old now, they can't get in there. That's an awful thing. So I think we can take care of that right away with the hopefully low end of the budget there. We'll try to do that. Next thing is we do need a foundation. There's a gentleman in Amherst. He's been doing a lot of libraries, setting up foundations and helping them with fundraising all throughout the state and out of the state. Canterhook in New York recently. He helped with Rojan, Hillsdale, and he helped with Stockbridge. So there's definitely, he said he told me it's definitely doable. He did say most of the money for even those communities, it's not the local money, it's this banker stuff. It's basically the second homeowners, it's a lot of the money from New York, Boston, and that's where it comes from. So the thing is, he said no, it's not easy, but it's all doable. We've just never done it. We should have developed an endowment years ago. For example, Stockbridge Library has an endowment, which really helped them, and we need it for different things too, because times are going to get tough again. We know that the economy is going to come to an end of its cycle. And then they talk about closing the hours of libraries, cutting staff, and everything else. We have nothing to fall back on. So even large places or wealthy communities like Wellesley, Lexington, Boston, they're all doing the same thing now. Foundations, they're raising money to make sure it's rainy day money too. So, and we have very little to fall back on. The Ramsdell family, there was money put aside originally, and Kathy, what is it down to? $500 maybe? Endowment? Maybe $500 and that's endowment left. So that's what we're talking about here. We don't have that structure here, and we need to start for many reasons. This is a good reason to do it. So that's basically our next steps. We're glad you came tonight. It's your library, but we need your support to make sure that we can pull everything off here. Okay, so thanks for coming. Thanks.